Welcome again. We are still fighting inflation in Zimbabwe. Well, the word I was looking for concerning banking is liquidity ratio. Liquidity ratio. That's the word that I spoke about in the previous video, and I could not remember what it. I could not remember it. A liquidity ratio generally means that there is a percentage that the Reserve Bank allows local banks, or rather, a percentage that the Reserve Bank requires local banks to hold as compared to the amount of money that they can print or lend out to their bank clients. As I said, if I do not know the liquidity ratio in Zimbabwe, I'm not an analyst, okay, or an economist, I'm just a politician. Let's say the liquidity rate is 10%. It means that if a bank in Zimbabwe needs to lend out $10,000, they need to have at least $1,000 deposit. That is 10%. Now, if the central bank reduces that rate to probably 5% or whatever, or anything smaller, it gives more room for the banks to create excess liquidity into the market. So one of the ways of reducing the liquidity in the market is for the bank to increase that liquidity ratio to pay maybe, let's say, 20% or maybe 40% or 50%. That would be very high, meaning that to 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 lend out 10,000, they need $5,000 deposits. That is a very stringent. I think that's one way in which the RBZ can do to fight this capital flight. Because as I'm seeing it, it is really based on the banking system. People have got the ability to create money through the banking system. But now the tragedy that all this money that is created in the banking system is not finding itself in the productive sector that produces jobs, productivity, and able to increase our exports. However, all that money that is created, it finding itself into the currency market. And I'll tell you how this trade works. If, for example, you are a Zimbabwean with the access to the banking system, you borrow 1 million Zimbabwean dollars, okay, at whatever rate that they, I think it's 250%, but it doesn't matter even if it's 500%, that is per annum. It's nothing. You, if you are going to take that money and you go and put in and go buy US dollars, and then within a few months or so, the US dollar, the Zimbabwean rate would have fallen so much that if you return those US dollars back to Zimbabwean dollars and pay back your loan, you will come out with a huge profit. To understand? So I think the Zimbabwean interest rates from the Reserve Bank is around 250% per annum. That is nothing. That is per annum. Okay. But the rate of the fall of the Zim dollar is so precipitous such that there is a profit to be made by just borrowing Zim dollars, buy US dollar, wait for the rate to fall, change that US dollar back to Zim dollars, pay back your money, and pocket the profit. Okay, so that profitability will carry on occurring as long as the Zimbabwean dollar keeps on losing value, and the Zimbabwean dollar will keep keep on losing value the more people get involved into this kind of trade. Now, the reversal of this trade can be very brutal because for now, as we can see, that the catalyst to this move downwards for the Zimbabwean dollar is Emerson Mnangagwa's announcement of the election date, bringing into certainty that elections will be there in Zimbabwe, bringing into certainty that political instability will be there this year in Zimbabwe. This year, I mean, in the run up to the elections and probably even after the elections, that has been a fuel for this precipitous capital flight out of Zimbabwe, aided mostly by speculators purely for the sake of profit making in the speculative currency markets and other related derivative markets. However, at the end of it all, the reversal can be very brutal and it can harm even some of the speculators who, if the reversal occurs at a time when they are not aware of, those who would have borrowed at the top of the market would find themselves borrowing Zim dollars at a exorbitant interest rate, and after that, the Zim dollar gaining weight, gaining value, such that US dollars that they have, if they turn back to Zim dollars, it will be less. You understand what I'm talking about? For example, you borrow 1 million Zimbabwean dollars at the apex of this trade, because in this trade the US dollar is going up, the, the US dollar rate is going up. Okay, everybody's making money as the rate is going up, but on a certain turn, when it suddenly turns around, and then you're the one who borrows in Zim dollars at the top of the market, you buy US dollars, and when the trade suddenly changes, goes down, and your position is at a loss. And as I tell you that, as much as this thing is going up, it's just gonna look like a Bitcoin, like a Bitcoin chart. A Bitcoin chart, at one point it went from $1. I mean, it went up to 20,000. Remember when it went when it went up to 20,000 like this? Every time you see a chart looking like this, like it's an aeroplane with a nose. I mean, with this nose facing the north, know very well that it's a bubble territory and anything can happen. Okay. In Zimbabwe, the catalyst for a sudden change will be political stability. And perhaps that political stability will catch other traders unaware in such a way that when it turns, it's going to be brutal. And the level of its brutality, you will see. Now, this is speculative, it's not prophetic. Okay. let me let me put a disclaimer. It's very prophetic word. It's not financial advice, but it's my observation that when that sharp turn happens, as it happens in most financial charts, there's a sharp turn. Every time the chart looks like it's an aeroplane facing up, it's just gonna call up. The catalyst will be political settlement in Zimbabwe, which the market might not be able to read in time, or other market participants may not be able to read in time, and they get caught and they caught up in that trade. Because as we can see, greed moves people. As this trade is making more money, everybody's getting into the trade, and the volumes are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the biggest volumes will be probably there during those last days when the Zimbabwean dollar suddenly gains value. And the fact that everybody who's holding US dollars is saying that the trade is losing, the Zim dollar is gaining, they begin to sell off their US dollars in favor of the Zim dollar because they have to pay back their money in the banks. Even those that are in the loss, they will have to quickly come back to the Zim currency in order to limit their losses. And those that are in a profitable position, as they see that their profit position is dwindling, they will also be rushing into the Zimbabwean currency. In that kind of environment, you will see a huge demand, a huge speculative demand for the Zimbabwean currency. Okay, it's going to be so huge that but as the dollar keeps on, same dollar gets gaining more value, lots of currency speculators and manipulators are going to be losing money, and they will be racing to get back into the Zim market, and that will bring about a huge strength strengthening of the Zimbabwean dollar because of that political stability. Now, to the extent to which the Zimbabwean dollar will gain strength during the time of that political stability is dependent on the amount or of speculators who are in this trade I'm explaining. Okay, so if this trade I'm explaining has got a few people in it, then the Zimbabwean strengthening will be very limited. But if there's a huge amount out there of Zimbabwean created money borrowed in Zimbabwean dollars and exchanged into US dollars on that day of the market turnaround, because it has to come back to Zimbabwe, it has to be in Zim dollars, because remember they borrow from the bank in Zim dollars, so they have to sell US dollars, buy Zim dollars, and pay back that money. But then now, as the Zimbabwean dollar keeps on strengthening every day, that rush to get back to the Zim dollar is what's going to bring this implosion, this explosion of the demand for Zimbabwean dollar. So I'm saying the extent of it is going to be dependent on the extent of the traders that are involved in this trade. I suspect that there are a lot of them, and I suspect that the volumes are really huge. That is why we are seeing this precipitous fall going towards the elections. And I also expect that the reverse trade of that is going to be something of the same nature, and a lot of people are going to cry. Here's the thing: who, you cannot do market timing. I guess people who are smart might think that, oh, smart, or those who think that they are smart will think that this thing will fall until elections. After the results are out, Emerson will be a winner. Nelson Chamisa will challenge. They will go to courts, chaos, and then after the political settlement, then they are going to sell and take profits. But here's the thing: when there is a lot of money that wants, but the door is very small, it will be difficult to lock in profits at that time, even though the profits will be on paper. But to get a Zim dollar at that time, when everybody's holding US dollars, to get a Zim dollar on that time is going to be very hard. And that's going to lead to this massive move in the currency markets, including the black market rate just gonna fall down precipitously because of a political stability that I envision is going to be reached in the future. So, but then that is what a smart guy might would think, or a rational thinker would think. But the market is not always as rational as we think. Sometimes people who can uh, sell on the news, or meaning that uh, when the political stability comes, the market would have already turned. It may happen that the market may turn during the political turmoil itself, to understand, when people begin to look in profit, thinking that okay, maybe, or you never know, or that turmoil might take a longer period of time, and then you get a further leg up into in that trade. The fact that nobody really knows, but one thing I can tell you is that I suspect that there's going to be a sharp turn, and it is that sharp turn that is going to hurt a lot of these speculators. So if you're on a part of the speculation, I mean, should people be part of the speculation? Well, it's their decision, and it's it's a it's it's their decision. It's just a trade. Trading is very brutal. Okay, people want to trade, they trade, but be very careful, because when the turn comes, when the turn around comes, it's going to be very brutal, and it's going to be hard to time that market. Okay, even if you're a genius, remember in the currency markets, nobody is a genius to know when to time the market, when it is at the top or at the bottom. So that is the tragedy that we are going to have if you are a currency trader in Zimbabwe. However, if you're an ordinary Zimbabwean, uh, I wouldn't recommend keeping money in Zim dollars anyway during this election season. If ever you've got Zim dollars, it's best that you change it into something else. It doesn't always have to be Zim US dollar or even South African rand. No, it can be an asset. All right. You could buy something. You could buy a house with your money. You could buy a car. You could buy a television. It depends if it's little money that you have. You can buy small things. You can buy chipake, okay? Because that bucket of mealy meal, that maybe you buy it for $10,000 today, 2 months from now it's gonna be worth 100,000. Now it's not a profit; it's just a hedge against inflation. So that is why the stock market in Zimbabwe is doing well, because not only is it an inflation hedge, but we are seeing price inflation reflecting in the currency markets because of of some other factors that allow it to receive cash or investment safely. But I do not know how easy it is for most Zimbabweans to participate in the stock market. But those of you that are not going to be able to participate, it's best to be buy other assets. other liquid assets. As I'm saying, chipake, you can keep it at home. You can buy Mbambaira. I don't know, Mbambaira cannot keep it for 4 months. I mean, for crying out loud, you can even buy 100 liters of cooking oil and keep it in your basement. Okay, you can sell it 4 or 5 months from now, as long as it doesn't reach its sell by date, the price would have gone up. I mean, that is just an inflation hedge. Buy something, chitenga something. Don't keep Zimbabwean dollars. But what I'm saying about market timing is that a time is going to come when those things that you bought, you need to sell. You need to sell back and come back to the Zimbabwean dollar. Because when that time comes, the Zimbabwean dollar will be gaining so much uh, interest, such that the stock market, the Zimbabwean stock market, will begin to fall. That is interesting. If you invest in the stock market, it's very interesting that I would think that I would speculate that it's what investment advice. I would like to think that the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange will fall during the time when the Zim dollar begins to gain value, and a political decision or political settlement is reached. And then that uh, on that day when the new government comes in, right, and the government changes the dynamics in the productive sector such that the conditions are conducive for investors to invest in startups, in factories and stuff like that that generates um, uh, income in the real economy. We will see a massive movement of capital from the stock market into the productive sector. So that movement of capital, that rotation, capital rotation from the equity markets to the real economy, would see a huge sell off in the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and entering into the real economy. So that loss in the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange will actually not be an indication of a failure of the companies listed in the stock market. Rather, on the contrary, the companies listed in the stock market would be having better performance. Talking about profitability, their balance sheets are going to get better and make profit, but however, their stock prices are going to fall onto the fact that what they were experiencing anyway was just artificial stock price increase. It was driven merely by this excessive liquidity in the market, not really because of real underlying financial position of these companies. So, I would think that it is good, okay, for the stock prices to come down and companies doing better than for stock prices to remain high because of inflation hedging. At the same time, the companies are paying people $100 a month, their general workers $100 a month. So rather have a healthy real economy in the street, uh, with elevated wages or normalized wages, a healthy incomes, a healthy economy in the country, and a stock market that is going to be stable. It will appear to other investors who do not, who only look at the stock market only. There's the trouble with guys in the stock market, that they always just look at the equity market as if that's what all of us must be concerned about. Okay. So when that stock market begins to crash, they will look at it and say it's a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a healthy thing for the economy. It might be a bad thing for them, the speculators, because at the end of the day, they are speculating there. It's not the job of the government or anybody to make the speculators make money. Speculators get in knowing the risks that are involved. So the government should not be involved in trying to aid the stock market from falling. If the stock market falls, it falls. It goes up when it wants to, and it falls when it wants to. And I don't think any government intervention will be necessary for that. In fact, it will be capital taking profit. So it will be profit taking and going to accumulate more assets in the real economy so that they can take profit later. So I will see that companies that are not listed in the stock market might gain more in terms of valuation, because of the real returns that they can promise investors. and companies that are listed in the stock market might see paper losses in valuation because of that inflation, or rather the deflation of the stock market occurring. And it may cause their CEOs to stretch their head of trying to figure out what to do. Because if now here's the thing, the good advice, if you are running a company that is listed on the Zimbabwean Stock Exchange and this scenario begins to play out, you should be planning by now and see that if this kind of thing happens, if trouble, if the things change, how hedged is your company? How hedged are you uh, as far as the stock prices are concerned? Because if your company begins now, therefore, to benefit from the elevated stock prices, for example, perhaps maybe to borrow from other places using stock price as collateral. When that stock price tanks, it means that your collateral has tanked as well, and your borrowing costs might be increased because of that, or your financial position might not be right. So I think that if you're a prudent executive in a Zimbabwean company that is listed in the stock exchange right now, you would have some kind of hedging in place against price volatility of your stock, because you cannot make decisions uh, thinking that the stock price is always going to be elevated. So whatever hedging needs to be in place will be probably the best thing to do going forward. Because I don't think the splash is going to be well announced. It can happen anytime because market forces happen on their own. Their own. They've got their own lifeblood. Yeah. So that's what is in my head today as I am watching the high inflation rate in Zimbabwe and the following Zimbabwean dollar, owing to these speculators who are watching this political environment that is not this political environment that is uncertain. Because what is certain is uncertainty leading to the 2023 elections, and uncertainty really is going to be exacerbated after the elections, knowing very well that it's highly unlikely that ZANU-PF is going to announce an election result that says AD has lost. Even if people don't vote for AD, for some reason we expect him to win. We expect the announcement, at least, to say he won. And we also expect the people not to accept that announcement. How Chamisa is going to react, I do not know. I do not know how Chamisa is going to react and how the opposition is going to react as a whole. And that kind of chaos is what the expectation of that kind of setup, that kind of chaos, is what is driving the Zimbabwean currency to fall. Do you understand? Not that there will be violence or a chaos. We do not know. Perhaps the election results are going to come out and say Chamisa won, and Chamisa will be the next president of Zimbabwe, and AD will be out of power. But what I'm saying is that whatever is going to happen, we do not know. But the expectations, not what we know, but what we expect will happen, causes the market to react the way it is reacting against the Zimbabwean dollar. So this is something that there's no way of fixing it right now, because I do not know how the Zimbabwean military and ZANU-PF can really assure Zimbabweans right now that the election is going to be free and fair and the results are going to be handed out freely and fairly. The bus has left the train station. They should have done that 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago in previous election cycles, because ZANU-PF has been rigging elections over and over again. It means now that the Zimbabweans have come to that place where they think that these ones are also going to be rigged, these ones are also going to be challenged. That's like all of them. Therefore the market is certainly flying, the capital is flying out of the country because of that. So that's why I'm saying there's nothing that can be done now. You're just watching this slow accident, okay, in slow motion. Okay, you're watching this accident in slow motion, and you cannot stop it from this thing from falling and collapsing. So this Zimbabwean dollar will tank until the results of the elections are announced and they are to the satisfaction of the Zimbabweans and the broader market participants, including foreign investors who will also have interest in the country. Remember, not all investment is local. Some of it is foreign driven. And foreigners also can come to Zimbabwean banks and borrow money in Zimbabwean dollars through currency speculation. They can do that as well, which means it's a huge bet against the Zimbabwean dollar. What is it called? There's a word I'm looking for again. Another word keeps appearing from me. It's basically the word. What the word means is that this is a bet against the Zimbabwean dollar by currency speculators and perhaps some other manipulators. I think it did think that it's manipulation. I doubt that it's totally manipulation. I think if it is manipulation, it's very minimal. The majority of it is a speculation, pure greed of speculation. You can call it greed if you want to. You can just call it just selfish interest, but that's what it is. So the only person who can assure the market, calm the market, I do not know who. I don't think it can say anything. I don't think even China. I don't think perhaps the military. Perhaps if the military can assure the people that, I don't even think it's even their right. They have got the mandate to say those things. Here we're at a place where nobody can do anything about it. Okay. If there is someone who can do something about it, I do not know who, and I do not know what they have to do. Because it doesn't look like there's anything that can be done. Except that what should have been done 20 years ago and 15 years ago and 5 years ago. But because it wasn't done, these are the results of the election manipulation of the past. Therefore, you get an environment like this where the market begins to behave like this, and nothing can stop it anymore, except that you just watch this train wreck in slow motion. Have a great evening. My name is Ngobani Zwado, and I am running to lead Zimbabwe forward, but not through these illegal elections that are not free and fair, that are very elitist and segregate us as disenfranchised youth who are suffering the most from the nature of Zimbabwean politics. Therefore, I do believe that to take Zimbabwe forward, we need to find a homegrown solution that also includes those that are not in the elite. Have a great evening.